So very nice to meet you again, Roswitha and Muskaan, and it's very happy to welcome you here again. And last time we talked about the basics of YON E health and also the FemTech industry. I'm just wondering that how do you see after this couple of months? You progressed a lot in your field, and you were involved in many different events, and in this entire FemTech ecosystem, you are a very good and important player. How do you see this FemTech environment? How is it progressing month by month and year by year? Because it started in a very low level, unfortunately, and you are one of the pioneers. You try to change this environment, and I'm really hope and I'm supporting you on this journey. I'm just wondering where you are now.
Yes, thank you so much, Peter, for having us here again. And since the last time we met and spoke about what we were starting to do, we're quite ahead in our journey now. We've managed to accelerate from the TRL2, which was just proving the validation of the concept in the lab, to now moving on to building our first prototype. And we hope to do that successfully by Q2 next year.
Okay.
And we're well on our journey to make that happen. And I think just looking at the current space and the current trends in FemTech in general, I feel like our device will be revolutionary, and the kind of data and the kind of biomarkers we're tracking is so important, not just for the aspect that we're doing a daily tracking method, but also the overall data and the data we can get out of it, and then tag that data to the life stage of a woman, because that's extremely important to have any sort of application within women's health. And yeah, we've managed to now begin the TRL4 phase, which we will move on to do some more biocompatibility testing and build our outer housings and integrate the sensor into all of that, and have a prototype hopefully very soon in our hands. And maybe in the next podcast, we will have a prototype with us.
But it's very nice progress, and as I know, it's much ahead your initial planning. So which is quite rare that you progress much faster nowadays than
I think it's
expected.
about the strategic planning as well, because we made sure to have all our plans structured in a way that we're not only meeting the milestones, but also excelling and keeping the due diligence on par with the quality we were trying to achieve. I think we've been, because of the team we have, we're incredibly lucky of all of the talented people we work with, and we've managed to also find amazing partners that we work with, even the manufacturing partners or lab partners.
I also think what is important for a startup is that you can act fast, because obviously you make a roadmap, you make a planning and goals and KPIs for different quarters, but it's not always aligned with partners, because they of course have their own planning and partnerships portfolio as well. So what is important and what we do a lot is consistently analyzing the roadmap, the planning, where we can accelerate, what to do when something is delayed from, let's say, external factors. So we are consistently aware how we can have a strong roadmap and KPIs, but also adjust it fast when needed. And I think that's a skill what you need to have in a startup environment with your team, to act fast, make quick decision, and always keep aligned with the highest intention, of course, of the company.
Absolutely.
And it's something what we did a lot as well.
And it's also about thinking 10 steps ahead. So we've got plan A to Z already prepared, and we're like ready. If something goes wrong, we know what the next step is, and we mitigate it as soon as we foresee it coming. So I think that's extremely important, because we know how high risk we are right now, and we know that's every single tiny decision we make has a huge impact on real human lives. So we take our responsibility very seriously, and we hope that we can excel at the coming phases and achieve all the milestones that we're set to achieve.
Okay, so mainly it is the success recipe that you are very well prepared for all the scenarios. And also the teamwork, as I learned from you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think what is on our side, obviously, I like to be prepared a lot. So I know a lot of companies do the Q1 planning in January. We already have that done. We already know exactly what we're going to do in Q1 and Q2, because I feel like when you start with that in January, it's like a bit slower. It's like end of the year, starting of the year.
It's too late already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we really do everything way ahead, because then what I mentioned also previously in our podcast is that you have enough time to mitigate those risks. and we have a really good relationship internally with our communication. So whatever is going on, I can immediately call our CFO from Boston, our legal counsel in Spain, you from London. So we're really hands-on as a team, and I think that's also rare, and I'm really lucky to have that level and relationship of communication.
Sure. And what are the main problems and challenges you are suffering as a FemTech company and as a female leader? So what is the main issues and challenges?
I think they vary based on, obviously, one of the most recent challenges we've been facing is trying to raise investment.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from that, in terms of the medical side of things, I feel like because right now we're in the process of also developing our own AI software for our companion app. And the challenge I foresee right now with that is creating the exact framework to train this large language model with. And all of the data out there is only male referenced, and there is no sex stratification in that data in terms of, and we're trying to be very meticulous about the kind of data we use to train our model, because we want to make sure it's representative. It's also considering people's ethnicities, races, and lots of different other factors that we're working towards, because the biomarkers we're trying to measure on a daily basis, they haven't been measured before.
Yes.
And we want to tag every single data set to the life stage of a woman, because that's the overall view of how you treat a woman. And because historically, because women were considered complex and they were just put out of every single clinical trial, and that's what we're trying to also change within YON E. And so we're really trying to find ways to make that data more sex stratified, make it more inclusive, and tag those data sets to the exact life stage. And I feel like this is also like a systemic problem in general, because when you go to a GP, they don't really ask you these list of life questions, right? About what your menstrual cycle is and how your period pain is and things like that. So I think the change needs to be really in a more systemic way. So we're trying really hard to, because also recently I read, so this is a question for both of you. There was a study of almost 700 FDA cleared AI medical devices. Can you just take a wild guess what percentage of these, so there were 692 medical devices, what percentage of these devices had the data points for race or ethnicity?
20%?
I wanted to say 20 as well.
3.6%.
3.6.
And these are FDA cleared devices.
That is.
And guess how many of these actually considered female stratified information to train this large language model?
0.
Absolutely none. So that's astonishing figures that we're trying to change as a company. And that's why it's so important for us to take all of these aspects into consideration while we build our device. And how we're mitigating this is also because we're trying to include this bias of not having just male referenced information, and try and make sure that we're referencing that to actual human female experiences, because it's so different across your whole lifespan. So we're taking a more life cycle approach rather than just like a point of care approach in terms of how we train our data and how we set the benchmarks for our device.
I think the most important, what I just recently learned, this AI and healthcare environment, that the most important not to get the screenshot, because the main problem with the current healthcare that we make a blood sampling and we think that it is our current status. No, it is the current status of that minute, that moment. Half day later, next day, it's not completely different. It shouldn't be completely different, but it's different. And tracking the data continuously, I think, is the future. That you have to track the data, and that's why this kind of devices what you are also developing, it's became more and more critical in the future, because this one screenshot per year is not a healthcare. And I am very happy that you are developing something which is moving to the future and the future of the healthcare and the patient care. And it's very important for me to see that how you change this paradigm with this old paradigm, which is not really works well, and why that doesn't work well, because we see these statistics.
It's not truly representative of what it's set out to build.
It's biased, completely biased.
Yeah, completely biased.
I think it's also it's beautiful how we on one hand are changing all healthcare environments and also simultaneously implement the new wave and the new trends, and that also comes with a lot of risk that you need to think about as a company to mitigate. And I'm happy that we are consistently talking about that, how to do that and how to think about the future. I also understand that there needs to be certain policies for companies, especially, for example, with the example that you just shared. It's ridiculous, and that definitely needs to change.
Yeah.
So talking about this and bringing awareness to it is already a start of the change, because I don't even think, I wasn't even aware, to be honest. And it's important to bring awareness and make that change, and I'm happy that we are a part of that change.
Yeah, I'm also very happy to be part of it, and also I think it's quite a similarity with the pediatric treatment. So most of the medications are not tested by pediatric, so the kids, and the kids, they are not small adults. They are completely different. I think it's the same similarity here.
Yeah, because they have, so with women, even with like the pharmacokinetics of half-life of drugs and things, they've just considered women to be just smaller men because we have less muscle mass, and that's just how they've trickled down that information of pharmacokinetics in women's. And even pregnant women are devoid of being a part of any clinical trial, but they still use things like paracetamol and all of those drugs during pregnancy, which we have no idea how they impact the human body while the woman is pregnant. So, it's just this is something this is the main challenge basically, because this data doesn't exist, and we're trying really hard to create our clinical study design around those inclusion criteria, where we can make sure that we are including all of these different factors and making sure that we have all of these variables in place to make much more informed decisions and actually help women that we're promising to help. And it's not just about money and the optics.
But it's very important just finding also the variables to measure, but also to continuous measurement, as we just discussed before.
Yeah, exactly.
And enough length of time, at least over a period, just to be sure that you are tracking all the variables in all the different scenarios, because you will get the full picture, and nobody takes the time, energy, and money to see these full pictures. And I think everybody is just in a blind way. They are just going forward, and if they are lucky, they find it by chance. But the proper way is what you are doing, to make it the proper measurements.
And maybe that's just that they're just taking the easiest route to market and making and trying to see what's the easiest, fastest route to get that return on investment. But that's not how real healthcare was set out to impact people. Because we're working on return on impact, and that's why we're so like focused on making sure we are taking those variables, as you said, making sure we're doing that continuous data collection and having that long trend. And it's not easy, but we're trying our best to.
It's still ROI, so return on impact.
It's actually interesting because a while ago, I think beginning of last year, I was in contact with certain investors.
Yes.
And I was well aware that building a medical device is going to take a long time. It's high risk, especially in a field that it's never been done before. And this investor mentioned, why just not launch your product as a wellness device in the US? Don't do any studies. Don't focus on the patent. Just start selling the device and let the audience pay for it.
Yes.
So, but we don't even have a device yet. And I was like, that goes against all our values. And it's interesting to see that with not all cases, it's values first and money after. And that's like really one of our core values. And we, like you mentioned, we know the responsibility and how long it takes. But for me, it's so important that we make a lot of statements. We have a lot of visions and big goals, and we need to carry that out and not cut any corners along the way or make it more efficient to get higher revenue or profit. We need to make sure that we do the right studies, we do it correct, and we do it with the ethnicities that need to be included. And it's interesting to even hear these conversations where I was part of the conversation. Oh, just do it like that. Just forget about all the studies. Just start selling it as a device and figure it out along the way. Like, no, thank you. Let's end this conversation right now.
Yeah, and we also do believe that you will get your return on investment. You will get the revenue, and you will get the commercial return you're looking for if you do the things that properly
in a transparent way.
On a more transparent way, like including your target audience in your decision making. And that's what we try and do even with our current research and all of that data we're trying to collect. So because you are building for them, so you need to have them on the table with you, making those decisions, or at least aligning with you on what the need is actually. And if you get that part right, you automatically have that return on investment.
Even with, because we're in the final stage of our B2C app. It's already an animation. And I think one of the key factors that we're focusing on and making the data policies and all those legal needs and requirements also accessible and digestible for the audience, because many times users just click on something and because it's too long, they don't know what it means. And we do that not only from a legal side and a data protection side to make it understandable, but also from the reports that come as a result by using our device. So there is on one hand a report for the healthcare provider that is really, of course, medical language. And for the user, it's broken down in simple terms. So the user is also empowered to go into this conversation, because that's many times where it also goes wrong. The the user doesn't have enough, she doesn't feel empowered to ask the right questions. It's sometimes hard to know what questions to ask. So we really make sure that both user and the healthcare provider side have the right information to utilize the data that we are measuring.
Yeah, it's very important. And what you are talking, I think it's also part of not just YON E Health and then your company, but this entire FemTech industry, that how you make the standards on a higher level, and which everybody should follow is. And I don't know how you see it, but do you see any positive changes in this arena, that this FemTech industry, or do you see that something is improving, or you are the only one and the pioneers, but they're still the only ones in this field?
So I think a couple of months ago, I attended a conference that was one of the biggest women's health conference in the UK. In the world, it was hosted in the UK. And it was just FemTech. So I got to meet literally so many talented people working in FemTech, in medtech, medical device, building medical devices for women on every stages of women's life. And I felt like, firstly, I was obviously very relieved to learn that there was nobody who was doing what we're doing, which was also a great thing for us. And another thing was the level of detail people are going into to make sure that every single... So, for example, somebody was building something for breast milk. Somebody had a product to improve fertility with using some enzymes that will inject in the ova, which will make it less susceptible to pass on more diseases, etc. So these really complex solutions. And what we're doing is also super complex on so many levels in terms of the data and the biomarkers, and that's the most important factor in women's health, and the relation between the pH and the temperature and how that impacts fertility. This is data that is yet to be found. And as we all know, this data is king, and that's what we're trying to achieve. And this data can be used in so many tremendously amazing ways within pharma, within biotech, within medical devices, within just research, new research from this novel device that we're trying to build. But yeah, there is lots of trends out there now. There is loads of FemTech companies trying to build something or the other. And there was also, like we spoke about this recently, that lots of FemTech startups die within like the first 5 years or something.
I think startups in general, but FemTech was
the rate was higher as compared to overall startups. And we were wondering what could be the reason why. Is it the lack of investment? Is it the lack of... Because investment doesn't happen, so the founders can't really just bootstrap the whole process, because clinical trials and building devices or AI is quite expensive. So yeah, we couldn't really pinpoint exactly why this happens.
I think, to be honest, it's either investment or people, because if you have the right investment, then the next potential issue could be to find the right people to deliver exactly
the promise.
Because of course you need to hire key individuals that has a price tag, and if they don't deliver what they promise, or there's not enough policies in place to monetize them and review them and have certain protocols, then that's another risk, because you lose a lot of money. So I definitely think it's either investment or people.
True.
Yeah, it's very important. But do you see that there is some positive improvement? Because I see there is more and more femtech companies. There are more and more events. I see also in big conferences there are separate sections. So for female leaders, also they are recognizing more and more.
Yes.
Slowly, of course, but still, at least they are recognizing. Do you see some positive changes in this field?
Yeah, definitely from the last 5-7 years since I was introduced to female health or femtech as a specialty. There has been drastic changes over the years, and the initial advisory roles that I had with other companies or other startups were in a much different era, in a much different, less regulated sort of structure. Because right now, even the regulators, notifying bodies are much more moving towards systemized medical devices or AI or whatever they're trying to build, and the trend has been improving. You see more and more now because women have now got the opportunity to go out there, build what they're building, and there are lots of female accelerator programs and investor programs that people get selected to, and also lots of governments are trying to put most of their investment focus on female health and women's health now, because I feel like although lots of people have realized that how backwards the research is within women's health, there is still a lot of struggle for us to reach that endpoint of being somewhat equal to having gender equal, that data stratification that we were speaking about earlier. But there is still a long way to go, but we do still see lots of improvement within people's perception to what female health is. And now femtech is a real sort of field in itself, and it's so big and it's growing so rapidly.
And I think what is also beautiful, for example, in the Netherlands, a hospital opened a whole wing fully dedicated to femtech, women's health, fertility, to conduct also the trials and the studies there. And I think because we fight so hard as all female founders in femtech to get this out and make it an existing environment that is being brought to the attention of the world, basically. Now you see these changes happening. So I'm really happy when I read that news about the hospital in the Netherlands, because I think it's so much needed. And I definitely also agree that there's so much change happening now. Of course, it was not as fast as we wanted to see, but of course changes take time, and also adaptation take time in the market. And we definitely see the difference with that right now.
Yeah, the traction is definitely increasing within this sector, and we see more and more people building within the femtech space. We interact with lots of other female founders and other femtech companies on a daily basis, so we try and share our learnings with them, and they share their learnings with us. So I think it's good in a way that we're able to build this community around us, and we know that we're not alone fighting this battle.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what is beautiful within femtech, what you mentioned, because we're in daily contact, it's really supportive. We really want to help each other achieve. And also people outside of femtech, they see that and imagine that it's so aspiring. It's not a competition. Everyone wants to help each other and share connections and just supporting each other. And I think that's a beautiful thing that I do notice in this environment.
Yeah. Now just the investment part should catch up because
Yes.
the professional part is moving in the right direction, even if it's a bit slower than you expected, but still moving. But the finance part is a lag behind, I think. But I don't know what is your experience in this field, but I see that the investors they are still not touching as it should be involved already in this arena. And I'm happy to be involved, and I'm happy to meet with you and then started my first femtech investment, and it's coming more and more, hopefully. But I don't know how you see that, how far are the investment part, why they are lacking, and why they are so behind.
I feel like it's a trend people are following. Everybody is trying to follow, all the investment firms or VCs or LPs, they're trying to follow this trend of investing in either AI.
Yeah,
so it can be AI
hype.
in literally anything, sports, finance, insurance, making a table, I don't know, like anything. But all I can say is even vagina has AI in it, so you should invest in women's health.
Yes, it's important. Also, you have AI tools as well. You are developing your platform and your application. It's very important. And but do you see any changes that, for example, you are working also in fundraising, let's say a couple of years back? Is there any difference that how you get a discussion with the investors, potential investors 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and yesterday?
Yes. because when I first started to have these conversations, I was met with a lot of intensity. People that literally just bluntly said, "It's not going to work. You're crazy. Why are you doing this?" Then it moved to feeling a bit shy because using the word vagina and vaginal health, they felt a little bit uncomfortable. That's depending on which culture I was, of course, talking to. And then now, because we also have a much more online presence, and that's why I worked so hard to have that online messaging and online presence and the strength, of course, with our achievements, because even in the first 6 months of starting YONI, I already won our first conference. I ended up in Forbes and like all those things. So in medtech, really fast, I created this buzz around YONI, and that really helped with conversation as well, because an investor, of course, will check what you're doing. And if your website doesn't look good, they already think like, what is this? What is happening? Especially because we talk about vaginal health and fertility. I want to make sure that no matter where they're checking, doesn't even matter if it's on social media or my accounts or LinkedIn, that everything has a certain level of professionalism. And that really helped in the conversations. And now I'm also comfortable enough, I had so many investor conversations, that to identify the investor profile, and if it's not the right fit, to also say that, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. Because if I realize half in the conversation that he's not going to invest in pre-seed, not in medtech, I'm just also kindly say that, okay, it's not the right fit. Whereas in the beginning, of course, you don't want to address that. But now I understand that it needs to be a right fit from both sides. I don't want to waste anyone's time. And that's definitely something I've changed. And right now, we have so many good conversations with investors or VC companies, but they want to wait until we, let's say, are in clinical trials, because they understand the potential. They really see the vision. They understand how we're already educating the market before entering the markets, and they really aligned with that, and they even applaud us for that. But I'm like, yeah, but why are you not investing? And then we're just too early for them. And that's something that because sometimes people or companies ask me, why are not more investors? To be honest, I'm also confused, because if we would receive, let's say, critical feedback as of why they don't want to do it, but many times it's really positive, but then it's just not the right phase. And in that phase where we are right now, is really critical, because it's not yet there in clinical trials, but we're also much further and we have a lot of validation already.
And the point, that's why I was going to say that, because we've de-risked the idea, the concept. It's like, we know this works. We know the sensor we're trying to use works.
The proof.
We've already proved that. And now what we need money for is to build the prototype so that we can go to clinical trials. So I think it's also about understanding and doing that due diligence as an investor, to actually go into every single detail of what we've done and how far we've come. Because once anybody who's putting their money in a startup is obviously a gamble, right? And that's the risk you take. And once you understand and actually analyze that we've actually de-risked most of our problems, or most of the things that could go wrong already, and now we're in a much better position. We're much ahead of the curve that we were to reach that go-to-market phase. So it's more about understanding, taking the time and patience for investors to actually read every single detail read into every single detail that we've done so far.
I also think, and sorry to jump in there, I think from an investor perspective, I also think that sometimes it's critical listening and making sure that when you have that 3 minutes for a startup, that you also fully listen, because I've also noticed in conversations or pitch conferences that then the investors are like on a call or working because they're super busy, or they're driving back home. And if that's your moment, you're just kind of unlucky, because I've pitched to someone that was driving in a car, like doing something else. And then I just know that it's not. So I'm asking, like, can you reschedule? Because you only have one chance to make the first impression, right? And many times you also kind of need to be lucky, because certain VCs or investment decision makers in companies, they see 400 decks in a week. And if you are the last one on a Friday when people are tired, they have a different eye. And I think that's also plays a big role in this.
And I think we also faced, so lots of times it was more about in pitch meetings and in pitching, some people were like, is this really a problem? Because so it's that aspect we're trying to also change. So first of all, making them understand that this is a real problem that women face. And then the second step is to then make them understand how far we've come and what state we're in right now. So it's not very straightforward. Like you pitch and you
Yes.
sign, and
We need to educate sometimes. the
sometimes it's
audience,
more
yeah.
about also educating these, people we speak to about this is actually a real problem women face. And
It's not an easy job.
No.
no,
It's very difficult. I also reviewing hundreds of pitch decks, and it's really difficult and tiring.
Yeah.
And,
So I can imagine
you have to keep the attention at the very
Yeah.
beginning. Yeah.
And how are you managing that so you have the same level of attention to?
I don't have
redaction?
it because I'm not doing it personally because I don't have enough time for
Time,
it.
yeah.
I'm working a lot, but still I would need 40, 50 hours per day, which is not exist for me.
Yeah.
So we have a team for that, and we make a first wider and simple check of the pitch decks, and some we are picking up which one could be interesting. But most cases I have the personal connection, so I'm usually not accepting any cold emails, and in this contacts we have a personal contact in conferences or other events, or I'm introduced to this company and the founders. And as I mentioned to you in the previous discussion, that the personal part is more important for me. Of course,
Yes.
we are checking that it is a real problem and not an artificial problem, and the solution you provide is, even if it's not proved, but it's a very high chance that it could work. And after that, the team is the most important, as you just also mentioned, that you get a very good team you build and you professionalized, and even other companies with decades of history and with unlimited resources, they cannot reach that level.
Yeah.
So the team is much more important for me, because if you get not a top asset, but at least a good asset, with a good team, you can make a unicorn. But even if you have the best product and you get a lazy or a wrong team, it will suffer and it will fail for sure. So the team is very important, definitely. On the other hand, it's really that there are so many startup companies and so many investors as well, but somehow they do not meet, and then it's very difficult. And I'm thinking how to improve this. That's why we developed this new model that we are more partnering, not just investing in the companies. We grow together, because even if we cannot invest so much companies because of the limited time and human resources, not financial resources, but the outcome is much better because we reach earlier, we reach a higher chance and better outcomes, because in this professional investment is very important that we decrease the risk, and also the risk for the company failure, and also the risk of the co-investors. So it's very important that we have also the proper co-investors partners, and the proper one means for us that they have the same or similar values and impacts. They need the impact, and not just the ROI is the only impact. It's very important. And I don't know where you are currently. So what is your next step? What are you looking for currently?
Yeah, so currently our next step is to close the pre-seed with 600,000. From that, we can finalize TRL4 and actually then start, of course, planning and preparing the clinical trials. This also means that we will have our prototype. We finished, of course, everything related to the TRL4 phase. We continue with our patents, because there are a lot more patents that we can file. That is, of course, a lot of work, and everywhere, especially in the US, every state needs a different patent. We will launch different publications at the same time. Our team is scaling, and of course, we will have fully finalized B2C and B2B applications ready. And so that's currently what we're focusing on. And for us, it's really important that we find, you set the standards high for the investors, because you bring the value, the impact, and of course also the resources. And it will be amazing to find additional investors or co-investors who are really value driven as well. And that will be the right and best fit for us. We hope to close that in January or February, mid-February, and then we can start already raising seed round, approximately 5.5 million, but we're currently analyzing that based on the information from the reports that we're going to receive from our vendors this month to close the year strongly, and then we can prepare for co-investment pre-seed and our seed round.
Okay. Yeah, we work on hard to reach this point, especially that you make so extra effort in the recent months to reach your milestones in advance. So it will be nice to keep this
momentum going.
Momentum, exactly, and the speed and the enthusiasm just to go forward, and it is also the best interest of the investors because you reach the exit point much earlier than you expected.
One of the reasons I require a lot of the team because we have a lot of responsibilities, but the level that we're working on, that is the minimum for us because it's so hard for women to raise funds. So I want to set the standard, and I kind of want to prove to everyone who said no, like, oh, YON E, that should have been a good opportunity.
We missed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to either come back to us and see the potential and invest, or to understand, oh, next time when a company like YON E comes, I have to invest because they're doing amazing things. So I hope that also showcase to trust women more with investments and give them more opportunities. And that's the reason why we stepping into this leadership role within FemTech and as the responsibilities and the work, because we work hard. We really work hard because we want to satisfy the investor, satisfy the team, have the responsibilities for the patients, for the user, and just show the world why female investors are a good decision. Female founders are a good decision.
Yeah, you have a very important role on this, and I'm very happy that you will be a role model for many founders and investors as well. So I'm just wishing that it continues this way, and I'm very happy that I can support it, and I try to support it even more. And
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for believing in us and really supporting us and bringing the value and having also this relationship with us where I feel comfortable to ask you questions and also give us advice. And I also hear many stories that there's often a disconnect between the investor and the founding team. So I'm really happy and grateful that you can provide that to us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's part of our model, as I mentioned, that partnering is more important than just investing, sending the money and hoping the best, which is the current model. So the most of the financial investors, they just investing, they analyze, they get the numbers, and they hope that it will work.
And I think it's this hands-on approach in all our team, including the investment team, our internal team, and the advisory team is what we really value because everybody is extremely hands-on. And that's why we've been able to accelerate as much as we have because everybody's just incredible.
Yeah, you are incredible, I'm sure. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation,
Thank
and
you so
we will
much for
continue
having
from
us.
here.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you.